SK, how's it going, buddy? How are things on your end? There's a bit of a flu bug going around. Just want to kind of take your temp to get things started. How are we feeling physically, mentally, all the above?
Yeah, I think it's the old dodgeball saying, dive, dip, duck, and dodge. What are the 5 Ds of dodgeball?
Well, if I recall correctly, dodge is 2 of the Ds. There are 5 Ds and dodge is 2.
I never
Dip,
caught
duck,
that in
dodge,
the bit.
and dive. Yeah, it was a good bit. Really good
Wow,
bit.
never caught on to that. But yeah, I think that's kind of
worth a rewatch.
It seems like it's worse in the West Coast right now, this flu. And I haven't really heard a ton kind of around us, but I don't want it. I've heard a lot of people that have gotten the flu this year, and apparently it's just been terrible. So I do not want that at all.
Some people are terming this the burger flu, which we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that because I have some strong defenses to make of the best fast food burger that exists on planet Earth. Oh man, I can't wait to debate this. But yeah, let's just get into the golf here because man, what a finish for Hideki Matsuyama today. We were kind of chatting about some stats before the show. You sent me a tweet here that it's worth reading. Some of these round 4 ranks for Hideki. First in total birdies with 9. First in scrambling 4 for 4. First in strokes gained total. First in par 5 performance. First in par 4 performance. First in strokes gained tee to green. First in putting inside 10 feet. First in strokes gained around the green. And listen, we got the crack research team, the Smylie Show, the robust shot link team that we have here behind the scenes looking into this. And, as mentioned, second in strokes gained approach, first in strokes gained around the green. But I looked at his last 9 holes, and this kind of blew my mind in terms of illustrating how good he was, both in his approach shots, but also around the green. He had 6 birdies and 3 pars, but just 11 putts. He had 3 one-putt birdies inside of a foot. Those were on 11, 15, and 16. And only 2 of his made putts, the 9-footer on 10 and the 46-footer on 12, were longer than 4 feet. I mean, just mind-blowing stuff. Where do you kind of begin on your just thoughts on the show he put together in that final round 62 to win the Genesis?
I mean, listen, I would say, if Hideki shot 62 at Riviera and, won off the course record and you'd have told me what day it was on, I would have said, oh, he probably did it like Thursday morning, soft, really ripe conditions. And if you would have told me that he did it on Sunday from 6 back and went on to win by, how many did he win by 3? Is that right?
Yeah, that was because
I shut it off after I didn't know what happened after. I was like, Hideki's won this.
let's peel the curtain back here because this is hilarious. You texted me, I think, with the leaders on maybe 16. You're like, hey, you ready to record? This thing's over, man.
This thing, as soon as Willie Z missed that putt on 16, I was like, this thing is done. But just to add a little, more hot thoughts on Hideki, just those stats you just kind of read off on what he was able to do on Sunday. And it kind of got me thinking what it reminded me of and how you can compare it to maybe other sports. I mean, was this like a pitcher pitching a no-hitter, or was it like a perfect game? Was it like a quarterback in the NFL going, 26 for 26 and having no incompletions? Was it similar to shooting 59 on a normal PGA Tour golf course? My head was spinning with like how impressive of a round it was because it was a flawless, perfect round. And, I was going down the scoreboard to see kind of what everybody else shot during the round. And Adam Hadwin was the lowest score. And I believe he shot help me out here. Was it a,
he shot a 6 under,
6 under
5, I believe.
And he was he was the lowest by 2. So there was like a couple of guys that were at 4 under, but he was at 6. On a normal day, he's beating the field by a couple shots, or at least the next closest, I meant to say. And Hideki's at 9 under, which is just, just insane. So just to kind of put all that in perspective in what he was able to do on Sunday and in such a big event for a guy that hasn't been in form. This isn't a guy that's been playing well at all on the PGA Tour over the last couple of years. He's been outside the top 50 in the world. And from what I've been watching of his golf, it's been the ball striking that's been something that's kind of plagued him over the last couple of years. For a player that, look at the golf courses he's won on, just absolute places you have to stripe your pill on So
yes,
for him to kind of resurrect his ball striking, I think was the biggest thing. Besides just, what does it take to win on Sundays? From at least from 6 back. I mean, you got to have a lot of things go your way, and you got to hold big putts, and that's what Hideki did.
He sat down with Amanda Renner after the win, and just classic vintage Hideki Matsuyama from the guy who will react to a shot. It looks like he might have blocked this thing, 30 yards left, or, pulled it 30 yards, whatever. He says he feels like he shot 3 over par today through a translator. This is the guy who just constructed one of the greatest final rounds in the history of this tournament and most PGA Tour tournaments. So you kind of just talked about, that ball striking in the last couple of years where he's been a little bit hurt. Maybe hasn't been his usual self, or at least the version of him that we've seen, win tournaments, win the Masters. When Hideki's healthy and flushing it like he was today, I mean, how many ball strikers on earth are better than him? Can you count that on 2 hands? Can you count that on 1 hand? I mean, like,
he's
who
an
is
elite
up there
ball
with
striker.
him?
I mean, yeah. I think there's plenty of guys that I think when I watch their golf balls are better than Hideki at ball striking at this stage. Now, maybe earlier in his career, it would have probably been a little bit more of an even race, but there's just been some young talent that has come up that's, hey, listen, I mean, it's a good problem to have on the PGA Tour when you have guys hitting it better than Hideki Matsuyama on a good day. So with that being said, I mean, yeah, Hideki just a guy that we've known him for just being just so consistent, right? Just, even weeks that he wouldn't win, he'd be right there, similar to like a Brooks Koepka, Scotty Scheffler, a guy that just lingers. And I kind of, Hideki's game a little bit kind of reminds me of a Brooks and Scotty as well, because they're players that just seem to win on golf courses that favor the player, that when the score is not quite as low, that they're able to just kind of, shoot a 7 under and be better than the second place guy by a couple of shots. And Scotty does it all the time. Brooks used to do that all the time, especially in majors. So, and it was good for the tour to have a guy like Hideki win, because he could have easily been playing on the Live Golf Tour. He probably would have had a bigger offer than just about anybody, because the market in Japan is just absolutely insane for golf. So he kind of held all the chips, and good for him for kind of hanging in there and grinding it out, because he's already a very wealthy man, but he could have been really dang rich. And it kind of reminds me of the time of him walking through the airport with a green jacket and Spirit Airlines. And I'll tell you this quick little story and I'll let you kind of clean this up with Hideki. But I'm flying from Phoenix to LA for a Srixon shoot this past Monday. And I'm kind of just about to board, and I see Hideki. He's on the same flight, and Hideki always rolls with like a pretty deep team. Like he's never not alone. He always has at least 3 to 4 people around him. Whether that's the driving range, I mean, he'll have 8 to 10 people like standing around him, like that are just a part of the team. But on this particular occasion, he had 4 or 5 guys, and so I'm thinking, all right, I guess the entire first class is going to be of Hideki and his team. And I was at a ticket up front, so I was thinking, all right, maybe I'm sitting next to Hideki on this flight, and we're going to chit chat all the way to LA. And I get on pretty early, and in comes Hideki's team. He's the last one of the group, and one by one, they all kind of continue to walk back like they were walking to coach. And so every single one of them walks to coach, and in walks Hideki, and he walks on the plane. And I'm thinking, I was kind of looking around at all the seats. I'm like, I think there's one seat available. I guess he'll be sitting there. And then I see him walk past me, and I say, "What's up, Hideki?" He said, "What's up?" And they just keeps walking back to coach. And I'm like, this mug has got more money, and this guy's sitting 26C on this flight over to LA. So good for him. Hopefully he can afford to put the guys up front on this next flight wherever he's going. So I just thought that Hideki's just kind of a man of the people, right?
It's really and truly. And I think, despite the fact that he uses a translator, there's something about his persona that just really kind of comes through. It's why when he won the Masters, he was just immediately beloved by not only all Hideki, his massive Japanese fan base, but just everyone here in America as well. Not to put you on the spot too much, but do you interface with him at all as part of Srixon shoots or stuff like that, or that's so interesting because I didn't know if that was an international. Yeah.
Last year,
how is he in that setting?
Yeah, he's cool. I mean, he's always had like a fun personality, and he speaks English. He's just not going to do it with the media. I think it's more of a comfort thing. But yeah, last year at the Circus on Shoot, Reggie Bush and I were teaching Hideki how to throw a football, and he was like, and once he
this is so good.
Once he got into wanting to learn how to do it, he just like couldn't put the football away. Like it was like late in the day, so like which is the best time of the day for photo shoots to get the best shots and the best lighting. And Hideki's like, no. I got to learn how to throw this football. And we're like teaching him how to like, you spin it this way and grip it this way. And, he's just kind of throwing these, looks like just knuckleball rocks at us. But he eventually got to figuring out how to spin it. It's kind of, football is something that's just come so natural to me because I've done it since I was a kid, but it really is kind of awkward to teach somebody how to throw a football. Much easier to teach somebody how to shoot a basketball than throwing a football, because it is kind of a weird way to get it to spiral. But
is that wrist pronation thing that happens that just kind of like you have it in your hand early on, you kind of know how to do it. If you don't, we need video of this. I hope
there's video of this.
I think
Strixon put it out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Well, there you go. Good times. A deserved winner, a guy we all root for. On the topic of ball strikers, Will Zalatoris coming up just short, tied for second at 14 under. But I mean, we kind of documented each stage of his, comeback, whatever you want to call this sort of phase of his career, coming back from not only the back surgeries, but on top of that, retooling his swing to accommodate for, the not trying to re-injure that back. And then, oh, by the way, also retooling his entire putting stroke with a broomstick. A lot of things going on. And, there have been points in this recovery beginning with the hero in December where you're wondering, how far away is he and what's it going to take to get it all together. This week felt really, really encouraging. I love seeing him near the top of the leaderboard, win or no win. Just some stats on all that. Ball striking was there this week, 4th in strokes gain approach, getting back to that vintage Will Zalatoris sort of staple, what we all kind of knew him for. The putting, 15th in strokes gain putting, which, continuing to make huge strides with that broomstick. I think the only minor flag there maybe is that he was positive for the first 3 rounds there and then negative on Sunday. But look, first time back contending on a Sunday, maybe feeling a little nerves around the tournament, figuring out how that broomstick's going to respond under pressure. So here's what I want to know, Smylie, if on our back, how back are we on not back at all? So we are all the way back scale. Where are we right now with Will Zalatoris?
Oh, buddy, we're back.
We're back.
We are back. And honestly, we never left, right? Like I love it. I've been on the Willie Z train through the storm, man. And I'm trying to find this tweet, and it's from the Hero World Challenge when we were covering that week. And there was a strokes gained putting stat that was put out after the first round of the Hero World Challenge, which was Willie Z's first round back. And I was there like the beginning of the day, and he started the day, he made this 30-footer for birdie. And I was like, man, that was so cool. Just like long way off, big surgery. And he comes out with a new broomstick putter and he rolls in this long putt. And as the day went on, it wasn't Willie Z's day, but I saw enough on the putting green that day. I saw enough just even in the first hole that I was like, this is going to be a massive change for Will. Love just the way that his stroke just looked more fluid. It just didn't look quite as, figure 80 at times. There was hitches at times, but he was also putting in 20-mile-an-hour winds, which is like one of the toughest days to come back from. And his strokes gained putting that day was minus 5.898. And I quote tweeted, said a lot of hate in the comments here. Willie Z hasn't played in 7 months, and just talking about how, I support him in this broomstick endeavor because I think it's going to be a great change for him and it's going to work out. And my gosh, the people that got back at me in these comments, they just said, what do you know? Like, you're an idiot. Like, I'm like, what? Just like, why are we already, writing this kid off like he's not going to get back to being a world-class player? Because it's just stupid. I mean, the guy's just silly with the ball strike. When you were talking about guys earlier, it's like, who can hit it better than Hideki? Well, Willie Z is one of them. This guy's just stupid what he can do with the golf ball. And no better example than today watching him hit high draw drivers, low cut drivers, just moving it every direction. And I just love watching that man move a golf ball around a golf course because it really is effortless and it's so fun to watch. His swing looks, I like it too. You know, although it's not quite as violent as it used to be, but it honestly looks cleaner to me. It's not as fast probably as it used to be, but man, I liked just kind of how the changes look ball striking wise.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stats bear it out there, and I think if you look at it's kind of tough to pinpoint, you know, distance loss. You can look at like driving distance and things like that, but the way those are calculated, you never really kind of get the full picture. But I think that, you know, it definitely seems like he's lost a little bit in terms of total distance, but it's, you know, to your point, definitely looks a lot cleaner. And, you know, today, especially with everyone tuning in and watching on a Sunday, you know, some of the shots he hit to put himself in contention, really encouraging stuff. On the putting piece, I thought this, you're going back to the hero. I think it's so interesting on all this stuff is like, we sometimes get lost in the overall stat and because it's the easy, quick one to read, we don't dig in and try to figure out the full story of those tournaments. He had that terrible first round, like you mentioned, but he was positive in the second round. And then the third and fourth, it was negative by just a really small margin. Then you jump forward to the Sony Open, where he had a terrible first day at the Sony Open as well, ended up missing the cut. Second round, he was positive in strokes gained putting. I think to me, I think we said it at the time, you know, he was still trying to figure this thing out, but he was making these, he wasn't kind of letting the bad putting stick in his brain and kind of, you know, let it fall him from round to round thing. You just get back out there the next day and make the correction. And so it's really nice to see him, you know, make the full kind of, you know, move to, you know, 3 days of positive strokes gained putting, 15th for the tournament. They're in contention, you know, right down and just got beat by a guy who was playing better in Hideki Matsuyama. So, I mean, to me, it's like, this is really encouraging stuff going forward for him.
And one note to that, you know, Will Zalatoris did not get a sponsor's invite into AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. And here's what we said, you know, and obviously it was a PGA Tour play to get all of these policy board guys on there because they were announcing the equity thing that week. So part of that makes sense. But also I'm like, wait, why aren't we sending out our superstar? Like, why isn't Will Zalatoris getting as many bats as he can? Because you need him to be a star. You know, you don't need to bury this guy. So huge for the PGA Tour as well to get a guy. Did he finish second? Like I said, turn it off. Turn it off. So Willie Z finished the second. So many points available there. I imagine Aeon Swing 5 stuff that, or he'll be in whatever situation now to imagine that jumps him up pretty good in OWGR. He was 32nd going into the week, I think, is what I'm looking at right here. Yeah. So he'll climb the OWGR. So when we talk about future signature events, he was going to get a spot in Wells Fargo if he needed one. But when we talk about Memorial and Travelers, now you kind of look like he's in a spot where he's not going to having to rely on sponsors invite. So that's good news as well.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We were talking about, you know, why didn't Will get an invite for AT&T Pro-Am?
Gary Woodland, man.
Gary Woodland. And it was almost like they rectified that this week with Tiger, you know, giving the invite to Gary Woodland, having him play with him those first 2 days. Great to see Gary make the cut and play well. You know, I mean, I think it was T39 for the week, so maybe not as well as he'd hoped to, but definitely better than some of the early year performances where he's missing cuts, still getting comfortable. So both those guys bouncing back.
Can we get a Gary Woodland win this year? God, how good would that be?
Awesome.
I would be losing it. Like, would not be able to keep it together.
Seriously, it'd be, and it's almost like, I mean, you know, who knows? I mean, if he gets his game kind of clicking, because I think he was saying this early on, maybe it was at the Sony, he was talking to Todd Lewis about feeling like his game's in a much better place because he doesn't have this thing in his brain that's making him anxious all the time and fearful all the time. I mean, I can't imagine playing golf like that. So,
or living that way, just
living, past professional golf. But you know, maybe he plays in an event where there's, you know, a bit of a weaker field, and he can kind of pick one off there and kind of regain some momentum. But this week was cool to see him play well, and cool to see Tiger give him some props. And on the Will piece too, just worth mentioning this as well. I think as a show, like to extend our heartfelt condolences to Will. Lost a family member on Thursday. I thought it was, you know, he had a really cool emotional moment after the round on Sunday, talking to the media, just saying how special that hole-in-one he made on Friday was, just knowing that family member, she was with him all week long. So incredible that Will was able to do all that in spite of the burden he was carrying. So there are a few names I just want to rapid fire at you to get some quick reactions to how these guys should feel after the way this tournament finished. Guys who, maybe played well, but kind of fell out of contention. There are a lot of names in the mix on that leaderboard coming down the stretch, and it went in a lot of different directions. So just first of all, Luke List, who shoots 68, finishes tied for second, but he was lighting this thing up on the front nine, lost control of the tournament on the back. How would you feel if you're Luke List quickly?
I would say that it was that span from 8, 9, 10, 11 that lost him the tournament. He had that 4-footer on 8, missed, or maybe it was like 6 feet, but just didn't hit a good putt. 9, he was lucky to get away with a par, made it a 7-footer, and hit it the only place. Literally the worst spot in the world on 10 is where he hit it. And honestly, hit
pretty good.
Probably one of the better shots I seen that day, getting it on the green. Even Rory was like, "Oh yeah, it was pretty good." Yeah, which was fun having Rory in the booth, just kind of listen to him talking. Also, kind of the bit of the I don't know how you describe this, but having Cantlay being in the lead at the time and kind of he being featured part of the coverage, and then Rory having to then compliment Patrick in there at the same time was a bit of a subplot that I didn't expect during the coverage, like figuring out how Rory was going to navigate talking nicely about Patrick, knowing what he's come out in the media and said about his relationship with Cantlay. I thought that was something interesting to monitor as well.
100%. And I'm sure that he enjoyed a lot of what he saw today. Not to dump too much on Patrick Cantlay, but Patrick Cantlay shoots a 1 over 72, finishes tied for fourth. He had a 5-shot lead at one point in this tournament on Saturday. Crazy. How would you feel if you're Patrick Cantlay looking back on this week?
Yeah, just ran a gas, I guess. And, I don't doubt Patrick's ability to close golf tournaments. He's a world-class player, and when he's driving it well, he's as good of a driver of the golf ball as anybody, and gives himself plenty of opportunities in the fairway to kind of pick apart golf courses. And I think I read a lot on Twitter last night just about how people were just wishy-washy on Patrick Cantlay going wire to wire and winning this golf tournament, not being generally excited about it. And I don't know. It's kind of odd because his relationship with the fans and the media, it's so interesting because he comes across sometimes as the most intelligent guy in the room, and sometimes he gives fantastically well thought answers that you're like, okay, I'm back in on Patrick. I'm back in on the wittiness that he brings in the press room, and I love the determination that he plays with. That's something to me as a player that I envy about a guy, to be so focused in what he does that it's very, very interesting, something like we haven't seen with an American player that is of his talent, that went through something that is as traumatic as anybody that is experienced on the PGA Tour, watching his caddy die right in front of him, and then going through just some of the worst injury luck with his back, being a premier college player. So all that to say is, going into today, kind of wild on just the way Patrick Cantlay is kind of viewed in the golf landscape right now.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, and it's one that I think we'd like to maybe unpack a little bit further as we discuss, some other major American names kind of coming out of this tournament. But along those same lines, his playing partner in this final grouping, Xander Schauffele, his best friend on tour, on the back nine, does not make a par till the 16th hole. He birdies 10 and he hits a chip. Well, not hits it from the sand in.
It was a great eagle. Yeah, great shot.
Great eagles. A little splash out of that bunker there on 11. Then goes bogey, 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 and then birdie, and then finishes par, birdie, par to shoot 70 and finish also tied for fourth with Cantlay. What do you make of the day if you're Xander?
Well, I'll just kind of connect those two guys right now, being Xander and Patrick, and just kind of finishing the general thought about those two, how much they've played together, how comfortable that pairing should have been. If there was anybody that was going to win today, and you put a gun to my head, I said it's either going to be Xander or Patrick. These two are out in front. They're going to play well. They're going to feed off of each other. They're going to probably beat the field when it comes to round 4 scoring. And I think I was just generally surprised to see both come out flat and just I guess nervy is the word, but and then the report, of course, that comes out that Patrick Cantlay woke up with 100-degree fever this morning. Johnson Wagner reported that from Jamie Mulligan, Patrick Hanley's coach. So you have, again, the flu kind of thing running rampant through LA. And then you have Xander, who's, man, he's good at finishing top 10, but man, he has just not been able to close the door on events. I don't know exactly where you kind of feel about where Xander or Patrick are. I still put them as, I wouldn't be surprised if either of them won three or four major championships over the next, span of the next 4 or 5 years. Like, that wouldn't surprise me at all, but it wouldn't surprise me either if neither of them won a major championship. They're just, majors are they're just so difficult because they come around so few, like there's only 4 of them. You gotta peak it right, and you need some luck. And I don't know. I feel like that's what you wanted to see. Those two guys kind of get themselves in position, but I walk away from today being like, man, I wanted a little bit more from them today.
Yeah, you would hope that they'd feed off each other playing well, when in reality, I think, Dottie Pepper said it was almost the reverse, where they both started playing bad and you couldn't really dig their way out of it. One more guy I want to throw at you, one last quick name. And let's cue the Twilight Zone music, because here we go again. Scottie Scheffler, yet another top 10, but finishes, of the 51 players that made the cut, dead last in strokes gained putting. I think it was Trevor Immelman at one point after he missed a putt on it. Yeah, it was his last. It was his last hole of the day today on 18, where he missed it low and short.
It wasn't,
and
close
Trevor
either.
Just kind of said, hey man, he's got to go figure this out. I don't know what it is, but he's got to go figure this out. What do you make of the day, the week, the year, the last 2 years, if you're Scottie Scheffler?
Last week I said, Charlie, he's a good putter. We need to start talking positively about it if his thing's going to change. And I thought it was really interesting during the coverage when Rory was on. Scottie's putting was brought up, and I was like, how is he going to handle this? Because he's somebody that he competes against, and not only competes against, I would consider him like 1A, 1B when it comes to talent level of who one of the best players on the PGA Tour is. So it was interesting in that his answer that he wasn't necessarily like diplomatic about it, I guess. He kind of said, he's so good at everything else, but I'm kind of hoping he doesn't change, because right now, if he does change and he figures something out, he's going to be really tough to beat. So I thought that statement said a lot about, first off, it's like hey, here's a compliment. You're really good, right, but also like, you suck at putting. That was kind of like how it came across.
Well, I found that one very interesting for a number of reasons, because if you remember, I think this was last year, the whole FedEx Cup playoffs, where there were a couple weeks where they'd almost done a flip, where Scottie Scheffler had gone from putting with a Scotty Cameron blade to a tailor-made mallet that they sort of front-loaded to feel like a blade. Rory McIlroy had gone from his TaylorMade Spider to a Scotty Cameron that was also a mallet, but they'd done the old switcheroo for a little bit, and I think both of them were putting moderately well, maybe a little bit better than they had been putting, and then had some kind of devastating misses in some playoff events, and both just went back to what they were comfortable with. I say all that to say, Rory referenced on the broadcast, hey, I just think I messed around with the blade for a while, and I just finally went back to the mallet because I just felt like that was the thing that allowed me to have more consistency putting. And you wonder if that's, a subtle nudge to Scotty, there's a tailor-made angle there of like, hey man, go get back in that Spider. I mean, I don't know. I'm really projecting here, but I find it interesting. I'd heard some things about Rory and that blade around the Masters last year, and we saw it kind of to disastrous effect where, it was clear that he was playing around with something, trying to go in a different direction, and it backfired. Now he's back in the mallet. And I wonder if that landed for you as mind games a little bit of him saying, yeah, Scotty, maybe go check that mallet out again. I mean, I don't know. Again, probably reading too much into this, but I think it's a fascinating thing, because Scotty is obviously the player on tour whose putting we talk about the most by a wide margin. Definitely. But Rory's been there at times. Oh, yeah. And so to have him commenting on it and talking about it, it was just that whole discussion I found, especially as a putting tinkerer, found it quite fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I just look back to the Open Championship last year, watching Rory. I watched him every day, and he did not putt well at all. He just had all these opportunities to give Brian Harman some pressure, and just wasn't able to make anything. Just felt so much like Scotty watching just some of the most beautiful golf shots you'll ever watch, and then not sniff it from 8 feet. You're just like, man, it's so hard to watch because, it's so hard to put yourself in position where the golf ball is, inside of 8 feet from 220 yards away with a tuck pin with a crosswind, and they do the hard part so easy. And I think that's the frustrating thing. It's like, this is the easy part. It's like, I feel like something that you can control, but I don't know. He did mention, he's like, I think Scotty should, like, to your point, I think he should go and try the mallet out again, but I don't know. I think his stroke does look better this year than it does look last year. And I saw good moments from Phoenix, and let's give him the benefit of the doubt on the East Coast. Let's get him to Bermuda. And we'll go from there, because right now I've seen too many players walk out off of the West Coast saying, I'm the worst putter in the world. I can't putt it in the ocean. And then they get to the East Coast and they're like, oh my gosh, finally I can read a green. I can trust and see a line that's, first off, the inconsistencies of the bumpiness that you get, especially without getting any rain over the weekend in LA. Those greens, I'm telling you, are the scariest greens you've ever putted on with the Poana when it starts popping. It is gross. It is not something that I enjoyed.
I saw some really weird bumps out there on a couple of putts this weekend. The rain definitely helped at times, but nothing like the Poe we put it on at Spyglass Hill on Saturday, the 18T Pro-Am. I'll tell you what,
I put it good that day.
Yeah, it's a great day. The greens are great too. On the topic of Scotty, American superstars, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, you've been kind of working on some research and some stuff on your end, just looking at the past 2 years, let's say, of these guys in this maybe kind of this American star group or young star group. I'm curious, what you're seeing, from that group, what you're predicting, and what maybe they've been lacking over that period of time.
Well, I was just thinking in my head, I was like, man, why is it what's going on with just not getting the correct American winners? When you're thinking about last year, and you're thinking about even into this year, not having just our young American stars winning golf tournaments. And I started thinking about the group, what group is this? Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about Justin, Jordan, and Sam Burns, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Cameron Young, Willie Z, Morikawa. I mean, these are all the stars that we're talking about. I think Scotty and Wyndham are the two players that have won multiple times, continue to kind of, carry the flag a little bit there. And I'll mention too that, Sam Burns, he won last year in the match play event, but this is kind of referring a little bit more to the stroke play aspect. Mm-hmm. Max Homa won the Farmers last year, but besides that, nobody won in 2023. And Morikawa won over at the Zozo, which is something that I don't even know if anybody watched, because I think we all just woke up Morikawa won. So did it even happen? So I guess what I'm saying is, when we're talking about just the fan experience, the PGA Tour having the right guys win, ratings for TV networks, and moving the needle. These are players that all I just mentioned. If Jordan, JT, Sam, Xander, Cantlay, Max, Cameron Young, Willie Z, if they win the next 8 weeks, golf is going to be a dang good spot. Because guess what? We don't go anywhere but America, except for a couple events out of the country. But all that to say is I think in 2024, even now, besides Wyndham catching a win on Sunday at Pebble Beach, it's still a little bit of the long shot American and some international guys that have won. So it's still the PGA Tour and how it stands in 2024. They need their American stars to start winning some golf tournaments. You throw Cam Young, Willie Z, maybe catching some wins, but yeah, I just want to hear your thoughts on that, because I was thinking in my head, man, it just feels like we haven't had that American wave of our stars that have kind of carried this tour for a bit.
Well, the place my head goes first is, everything we do these days is set against the backdrop of the professional tour divide, right? And we've talked so many times about the Live Tour being aspiring to be this global tour, you know, and in some ways them having startup advantages, and just their backers and the people who run the league are more international. So by definition, they're going to make more inroads and plays there. So they have this sort of built-in advantage there. And so I don't think it's nationalistic to say that the PGA Tour needs its American stars to play well for the league to succeed. You know, of course, I love seeing Rory win, Victor Hovland win. You know, there are a lot of international
they ain't
stars.
winning either.
Yeah, well, I mean,
at least this year.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
But last year, to your point,
going back to last year, yeah. If you go scroll down the list, you see Vic's name and you see Rory's name, and you know Tom Kim, all these guys that are. You know, I think that there are. I guess in responding to your point, that's where my head goes. Where it's. I don't think it's like a homer take or a nationalistic take to say, you know, we need these guys to start winning. I think it's like a health of the tour take. You know, of like I want to see this tour do well. They have this new investor coming in. You know, we're doing all these things to build, you know, interest around the game by you know full swing and ways to kind of reach new audiences. Yeah. Now we need the guys to go out there and play and win these tournaments to make the whole thing go. And so I don't know what it is that makes things click for these guys. I think we've had some near misses. I mean, I think
they've been close.
JT's really looking like he's rounding into form. I think there are a lot of guys are close. Well, yeah, I know. I had to prior to that in there.
Yeah, prior to that.
You can throw that in there. That was not me throwing that in there.
And just to kind of talk just a bit more about this, like these guys they're used to not only winning on tour, they win multiple times a year.
Yeah.
You know, like we've had Jordan and JT win 4 or 5 times. They both have had 5-win PGA Tour seasons. Sam Burns has had multiple time winning seasons. Same with Max Homa. And that's what I'm kind of referring to. Not just winning once, winning multiple times and being there towards the end and being a closer. I just think right now, like that's what I was kind of thinking, like that what we would see today at Riviera. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, we got Xander Patrick. One of the American stars is going to win there. And it just didn't happen. Obviously they ran into Hideki Matsuyama that was not going to lose anybody, but still that's kind of just what came to my head was, man, we just don't got it right now.
Well, and I think part of that has to be a product of the tour getting better, of just, you know, you're talking about some of the long shots we saw win the first few weeks on tour. And a lot of those guys are exceptionally talented players. You have rising stars like Nick Dunlap, you know, who knows, in 2-3 years, we could talk about him as the American star if things pan out for him a good way. And you have guys like Chris Kirk, who are phenomenally talented, 100%. But kind of had ups and downs in their career, and Brian Harmon and guys like that. And I think those are great stories too. But, you know, in terms of the, you know, like it or don't like it, I think that if you are a fan of professional golf, or if you want to see professional golf succeed because it's part of the thing that you enjoy and watching sports, and your routines are probably like ours where, you know, you like to play a little bit of golf, you like to watch golf with your buddies over a beer on the weekend, whatever it is, that if you want to see that thing succeed, you know, I just hate to break it to you, but from a business standpoint, these guys need to win to drive the whole thing and to make it work. And so, you know, I think it's one to keep an eye on. I think a lot of those guys you listed, we could see win in the very near future. I mean, for me, I thought Colin Morikawa winning the Zozo, while I didn't see a single second of it,
it was a step in the right direction.
But it was really it was a springboard for him. Like, you know, we saw him have a tough year. Last couple of years, kind of, you know, ball striking was off a little bit, but he's found something with the putting. He's hitting it a lot better. Like that's a guy that could have a big year if he kind of, you know, clicks and gets into place. But I think it's a good discussion. It's one to keep tabs on for sure. And it's one that kind of tells the picture of where we're at right now with both tours.
Yeah. And I'll say too, listen, and this kind of puts it all in perspective a little bit about the Ryder Cup last year, because it just paints the picture of, oh wait, none of these, our stars didn't win really in 2023.
Yeah.
And Zach Johnson, obviously, you know, as criticized as he was for his picks, and rightfully so, because, and I would have probably done the same thing that he did, because listen, how do you bet against these guys? But also you got to look at, all right, who was in form? It was like Keegan was in form. You had a guy like Lucas Glover that was in form, and Bryson DeChambeau that was in form on the Live Golf Tour, we think.
Right.
I know he was in form, but we have to preface it, right? But listen, I mean, Bryson could have probably helped that team. DJ probably could have helped that team. And I don't know. I think that in itself, just the American golf debate of, we've just been so accustomed to having, kind of stars really have some hot runs on our tour. So that in itself is definitely something to monitor here through the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, dude, remember leaving Whistling Straits where we were like,
oh my God,
what's the final score going to be in Rome? How much are they going to win by? Is it going to be a similar scoreline? Is it going to be worse? And the 180 we had to do from then until what we saw Marco Simone. I mean, it's crazy. And I think, and then, if you really want to kind of take it further, it's like, look at the two professional decisions that two of the brightest young stars through the pipeline just made in the last month. Nick Dunlap winning the AMX, accepting tour membership, goes that way. Caleb Surratt signs with John Rahm's team, goes to Live Tour. And so it's almost like this weird splintering of a young American talent. Where's the next one going to come from? What's their pathway going to be into a Ryder Cup team? And how's it going to look? I don't know. Gordon Sargent set to accept his PGA Tour membership following the NCAA championship. So he has a decision to make, but that looks, likely. So it's interesting. It's one definitely to keep tabs on.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And kind of, on the same topic in a way, the story of the week, the American star, of course, the tournament host of the Genesis Invitational, Tiger Woods withdrawing with what he used big fancy words on Twitter, says influenza, just the flu for everyone at home who's as dumb as I am. We need to look that up.
Did you look that up?
I didn't look it up. That was that's a little mini bit. That's like dodgeball. Okay. It's a little mini bit. I just love the idea. Like, you just had the flu, man. You just had the flu. And a really eventful week for Tiger in a lot of ways. Had the Sunday Red launch on a Monday night to mixed reviews, including ours. And then Thursday shoots 72, 1 over, punctuated by, and I can say the word shank because Tiger said the word shank. He presented Hazel first on an 18.
Yeah.
And then and then after 6 holes, hit a tee shot in the 7th and withdrew on Friday. An ambulance and a fire truck show up at Rip. People were like, what the hell is going on with Tiger? Is he going to be okay? Apparently gets an IV. Things get better. Confirms he has the flu. And that's all it was. He needs some fluids. The whole week in Tiger, what are you taking away from it?
Okay, I'm in on Sunday Red. I'm in.
Oh, okay.
I'm out on Sunday Red with any of the SDR. I thought
just the logo.
Well, having the SDR, what he wore out there, he didn't have SDR on his stuff. He just had just the Tiger.
Tiger, yeah. So you're in on that.
I'm in on that. I thought it looked really clean. I think.
Did you see the shirt he wore on Friday? That was like a throwback to what he wore.
It was a throwback, and I'm happy that it was a throwback because I was going to be out. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, this was just paying tribute to one of his outfits back in the day. I was like, okay, I'm back in, but I'm also
okay.
I'm a little frustrated that I didn't get more like Saturday and Sunday outfits to get just a little bit more of a taste of if I'm more in or out on Sunday Red wine. So that was, I thought it looked clean. I really did think, I thought it surprisingly, I was, I thought it looked pretty dang good. What about you?
I thought it was, I think largely the same. I'm still, I'm with you. I don't understand the rule of threes, Sunday Red, the word mark and all that. I think the Tiger wall, it's minimalist. Like, I'm starting to come around on that. Like, I don't think you need to do too much there. And on clothing, it's like it does have sort of a cleanness to it that I'm starting to kind of appreciate.
I like it. I like it.
I thought it was interesting on Wednesday. He got asked point blank because there were rumors, does he own the TW trademark logo? Mm-hmm. He says, does not want it, does not own it, wants to start a new chapter. I saw some stuff, and this is all like Twitter conspiracy theorists saying that like he doesn't want anybody, on the tour account using footage of him wearing Nike stuff. Like he wants it all to be Sunday Red stuff going forward. So he's really, really trying to make a clean break and go forward with this brand, which I guess makes sense because he has an ownership stake. But yeah, that I thought was interesting. And then I thought it was. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because there was at the end of that Thursday post round press conference, he had a bit of like a testy exchange, I thought, with I think it was Doug Ferguson regarding the back fusion and those spasms. Like he kept kind of pushing on that, and he was like is the back spasms a new thing? We haven't really heard about those before. He's like, yeah, I have a fused back. Like that's why I had it. Do you feel like, I mean, we've talked so much about the foot and the leg post crash, and like now we have this new thing. I mean, does this kind of call into question what he's going to be able to do going forward if there's all of a sudden this new health variable in the mix?
No, I mean, I just don't know what to expect, right? With Tiger, I think it's to a point now where if he finishes the golf tournament, we're just happy. I think anytime that he tees it up and plays 4 rounds, it's like great. And when are we going to see him again next? I mean, I think Players seems like the most obvious decision here, like on where we might potentially see him. I mean, I would imagine that I can't imagine seeing him at Bay Hill or Valspar. Players seems like it would make the most sense. It's pretty flat. Not the rough is not nearly as bad as Bay Hill. So yeah, I mean, you expect to see him there. It's just, and I think with Tiger being back, it's great, but also it's like such a halfway back because we just hardly ever see him. And when we do, it's like, what are we going to get? Like we get just, it's just not enough reps. I think he's just a player that when he gets out there, even if he has a good round, it just feels like it's going to be hard to put 4 of them together.
Well, I think that is the best point about the weekend, or just the week, really, or the day, I should say, is that it's going to be hard. We all love seeing Tiger out there. We're all excited to see him play whenever we get a chance to see him play. But he went from one of the longest guys on tour in his heyday, smashing it past everybody, watching Phil Mickelson crush a driver and then pulling out a 3-wood and knocking it past him. He had this massive advantage to, he's probably about tour average right now in terms of, distance, ball speed, things like that, right around that. So he doesn't have that advantage. So then it's like, what is he going to lean on? Experience, to a certain point, but all the short game stuff,
he doesn't putt as good as he used to, man. He misses a lot of putts.
And it's hard for him to practice.
Yeah, right, because don't get those reps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you're not sharp in competition, you can't practice. It just calls into question, like, what are you going to do to get it back to where you can win a golf tournament? And he's Tiger Woods, so I won't doubt anything. But I think that's probably the biggest takeaway is like, man, it's just I don't know what the formula is for him.
Gosh, I wish we have a situation like if we, betting against Tiger Woods to never win again. It's a bet that I never want to ever make because you just never want to doubt the guy. But it just really, I just don't see a world in which he does win again. Because of just all of just the things that are up against him. You know what I mean? It's just the uphill battle of just his own injuries and just the fact that over the last however many of events, he's only finished at however many of them. So it's just, to me, everything, the stars have to align perfectly. Like it's got to be a golf course that plays firm and fast, that it's easy on him, it's warm out, and then has a week where he gets a hot putter, and we just haven't seen him be able to just kind of physically and mentally kind of hold up, because when I watched him in the Bahamas for a couple of days, I saw a lot of great shots. I mean, shots that are good enough to win on the PGA Tour again. That's how good it really did look. But it was like all the mental mistakes that he was making that was like, man, he definitely needs to get a full-time caddy, because the mistakes he was making, it just was like, what are we doing? Like, putted it off the green. He's taking a weird unplayable eyes that week, and then didn't get to watch him play much this week, but still, like, just, I would love to see him just get in contention again to see if we can start to like get the adrenaline to start picking up again, because if he gets the adrenaline going, then maybe you can see him win again. But as of right now, man, it's just hard because he's just not the same guy he used to be.
And this is in no way doubting his ability to win again on the PGA Tour, because I'd never put that out there, but can't wait to see him rip up the Champs Tour. Champs Tour Tiger is going to be so sick, dude.
Do you think he cares enough to play with the Champs Tour? Like, do you think he'll get up to dominate the Champs Tour?
If you had asked me that question without me being able to read a single Tiger Woods statement, I would have said there's just no chance. Why would arguably the greatest player in the history of the game, who has all the money you could ever want, go out and play a tour that just doesn't seem like it fits a guy like him? But he keeps referencing it. You know, he references it in like in the PNC Championship every year. He talks about seeing guys he used to play on the tour with, and like all the guys on the Champs Tour are the guys he's closer with, because those are the guys who are in his peer group. And saying I never take a cart out here on PGA Tour because it's not out of play for an exemption, but I do it on a tour where it's allowed. Like the PNC Championship, or what other tour does that? Champions Tour. So I don't think he'd play a full schedule, but I could easily see Tiger playing like the 4 majors, like, and then
that would be his potential tune-up weeks. Like I think he'd be able to play tune-up weeks doing that. Maybe like that would be his way of like still being able to play the majors, and still, because he can, he can get those reps by just riding in a golf cart. So maybe that's a good point. Talking about that he might do it for just knocking the rust off.
I can't wait just to dial it in on flipping over to Champs Tour coverage mid-afternoon on Sunday.
I tell you, I've never watched a full round of Champions Tour coverage. I'm serious. I've never watched start to finish.
I'm also in that category, but
you never watched start to finish either?
No.
Yeah.
No, I've watched like bits and pieces of like Freddie won the SAS here in North Carolina out in at Prestonwood. That was kind of fun to see him win. I watched bits and pieces, but I've never watched.
We'll get there, right? Like I think once like people that I know start to get to the Champions Tour, players that I played against, like the veterans when I was coming up, when they start getting out there, I might be a little bit more interested in seeing a friend of mine like go and compete. But right now, I just don't know any of the. I don't have relationships with the guys, so
it'll be sick. Well, you'll be able to watch this podcast on Apple Vision holograms. We're gonna be like cyborgs. It's gonna be sick, dude.
and of course, I'm gonna definitely like that's my comeback tour. It's like I'm gonna be the guy that
you could play on the Champs Tour.
I could play on the Champs Tour, and now I got to probably do all the qualifiers and stuff because the money's going to be just insane. Mine's not going to hold up at all. But I know that there's a qualification to get into the Senior British Open, and it's a one-time offer for anybody that's won a PGA Tour event. So I have a one-time
you're in there.
British Open Champs Tour or whatever.
So you have to be what? You had to be 50. So that's like however many years from now. That's like 20 something years from now.
I have. Let's see. I have. Why can't I do math right now? I have 22. No, radio. That's not right. 28 years. 28 to prepare. Is that right?
Wow. 28
I'm 32.
Years. Yeah, that's right. I think that's right.
That's not right. That's 60.
50, is that? No. 32 plus 28 is... No, 18. 18.
I was like, that's not right. I was like, well, I've literally just gone full brain dead. I was
100% with you, 28. So that's two of us. This is not a math podcast.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. Listen,
it's not even late. What's happening to us right now?
It's not late. And I literally I made a living adding like plus minus 10 like for pin sheets. Like this should be a very easy thing to do. Going from 32 years old to 50. The other day somebody asked me how old I was, and I said, 35. Like I didn't even I thought I was 35 years old and didn't even blink. And then I was like, a couple seconds later, I was like, wait, no, I'm 32. I don't know where that just came from. I'm like already mid 30s, like lifestyle, and just kind of rolling with that. Like that's where my mindset is, I guess.
It doesn't really matter past like 32 until you get to 40. I feel like I have forgotten my age like a number of times in these past few years.
The only thing that I'm affected by now is like junior membership versus senior membership at a country club.
That's right.
That is literally the only benchmark right now. It's like I want to be young for the next however many years until I have to pay senior dues.
I moved into a new dues category this last year, and it was like, wait, it's that much now per month. It's like,
yeah, it's
dang it, man.
And you're like,
I only get that for like 3 years.
I'm still a junior.
I'm still a junior, man.
Are we gonna cut the part where I can't add? Or are we gonna actually let that ride? I think
we're gonna let that ride, because I have to say, if you think Smylie's bad at math, just wait till the Spyglass video drops on our YouTube of me looking at a tour yardage book and just immediately asking the starter if he can bring me the one with pictures, because I have no clue how that thing works. So we're not a math pod. We're not a math pod, and we'll claim that. We'll own that. Are you ready to argue about In-N-Out?
Just briefly.
All right, you make your case, and then I will yell at you.
My my thoughts on In-N-Out. I think it's a good burger. I think like the animal style fry thing is kind of mid, and I think the milkshake is fine. As far as like burgers go, I mean it's in my top 5, but at the very top of the top 5. Like it's not 1, 2, or 3.
Okay. Okay. So that was just truly an In-N-Out burger review. We should probably preface this by saying many people on Twitter and beyond are blaming Tiger's withdrawal from this.
I didn't know we were going that way already. Okay.
Yes. Well, that's what brings this topic around. It's essentially that people are saying that In-N-Out is why Tiger withdrew. Perhaps why Jordan Spieth withdrew, because I think he also had it during his practice round. We'll have to do some digging to see if we can find a picture of Patrick Cantlay with In-N-Out burger.
Have you seen this meme?
No. This is great radio. Yes, please show it for the YouTube crowd. Let's see what we got here.
Can you see that?
Roughly. Oh, yes.
It's Phil with an In-N-Out burger hat on in the background while Tiger's eating his In-N-Out burger.
That's actually, golly, there are multiple twists to that story. Remember when Phil, we're on such a tangent now and I love it. Remember when Phil, like, I don't know how many years ago, was in, I think it was at the Torrey Pines or something. It was like, man, I just got into town and I had that Five Guys burger. You guys ever tried Five Guys? It's like the best burger.
Ooh, yeah.
It's like, it's way better than In-N-Out. I love it. And we're like, what? Phil, why all of a sudden the Five Guys love it? Turns out he'd bought a Five Guys franchise in Southern California. He's trying to turn everybody on to Five Guys. Okay.
I did that the other day. Oh, I'd recently gotten a pair of shoes. These like brown like dress shoes that are like sneakers, brown dress shoe sneakers. And like, I haven't come around to them yet, but I see a ton of other people that have been wearing them. And I was at the PGA show with a group of guys, and it's a big bar, big crowd. And like, I didn't see anybody wearing brown sneakers, dress shoes at the moment, but I had seen them earlier. And so I'm kind of like bringing up the conversation to these guys. Like, you know what? I've just seen a lot of guys wearing these brown sneaker dress shoes. And I don't know if I'm all for it yet. Like, what do you guys think? And I really just wanted the guys to say, dude, that is such a good look. You've got to get a pair of those. Like, I just needed somebody to reconfirm that. And they were like, they didn't give me anything. There was nothing that I could like run with. Like, if anything, it was more negative than anything. And I was like, all right, guys, you caught me in a lie. I just needed just a little bit of like that I made the right purchase, because I was having buyer's remorse whether these things were me or not. So kind of in that same vein, talking about Phil selling you on In-N-Out burger, I just had to tell you that story.
That is absolutely amazing. Fishing for leather tennis shoe compliments, the PGA show, and getting like, nothing.
Well, if there's not a better place to fish for it,
if there's a crowd that would give you a compliment on your shoes sight unseen, it's the PGA show crowd. Man, that's a tough scene. You might have to get rid of those. Might have to sell those on eBay.
I'm back in. Trust me.
You're back in. Okay. Yeah. I'm happy for you. I mean, shoot, I guess if there are a lot of people trying them out, I might have to try a pair myself. Yeah, look, I just came here to say I'm a native Californian. All right. In-N-Out's the best fast food burger there is. Okay. The ingredients are fresh. The fries, fresh. You can't beat it. Now, and I don't even go too crazy. I just get a regular burger. I don't even get cheese on it. I like it. It's the top-notch burger. Five Guys is a great burger. The thing I love about Five Guys is you can go in, you get a burger, and you don't have to pay for fries because they give you free peanuts. So you can have an ice cold Coca-Cola and some peanuts and a burger, and it's a different experience. But In-N-Out is the best, and I will not stand for the slander, and I especially will not stand for the insinuation that In-N-Out is actively spreading influenza to members of the PGA Tour. That's the statement I wanted to make.
You want me to tell you the best thing about playing on the West Coast? I just got, I just turned pro, and all those Monday qualifiers on the West Coast. And, my goal obviously was to Monday qualify and make it in the PGA Tour event. But I knew if I missed the Monday qualifier, like as soon as I signed my scorecard, I was taking it out of my body and heading straight to In-N-Out. And I think that was it was kind of I got excited to go to the West Coast because first off, Monday qualifying is probably the hardest thing in the world. Seriously, Monday qualifying is impossible. So I woke up that morning excited about the opportunity to play on the PGA Tour, but also knowing good and well that my ass was going to be at In-N-Out Burger and getting the animal style double with the milkshake and the animal style fry, and just know I was going to sit in the car and just stare with not knowing if I was going to burp, and that's kind of what we saw a little bit this week at the other side. It's like, you just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's the beauty of In-N-Out, is that it could be a nice digestive system that rolls through, or a hurricane could blow through, and you just don't know what you're going to get. So that to me is my In-N-Out Burger experience.
God, the visual to really bring this full circle, it just reminds me of Ben Stiller at the end of Dodgeball, just eating food, his credits roll, and just Smylie in his rental car, missing the Monday qualifier, throwing down a Neapolitan shake with double animal style fries. Honestly, that didn't sound like such a bad lifestyle. I think that sounds quite delightful.
It was like, all right, we lost $2,000 on the week, but hey,
this burger's banging, dude.
we absolutely ripped through some In-N-Out Burger at San Diego, LA, and the other Monday qualifiers.
I think net this was a good promo for In-N-Out. So I'm happy with where we got. I'm happy with where we left it. I must continue progress this podcast on a theme. Your boy Jordan Spieth DQ'd for signing an incorrect scorecard. On the flu thing, did you what happened there? Do you have any inside
intel?
Can I go
back to In-N-Out Burger? I have one thing on it.
Please keep this going.
Dude, I've been in 2 motor vehicles where somebody at the beginning of a trip got In-N-Out Burger, and then we went on a drive, and twice, one being a tour player, one being a family member, didn't make it. They did.
Strike this from the record. We're striking all this from the record. You didn't hear any of this. You didn't see any of this. What do you mean by didn't make it? Didn't had to go to the bathroom, vomited, what?
Yeah, they needed to go to the bathroom, and they're stuck on this drive in California, and the first one was just a nightmare situation, but the other one with a tour player, they actually did make it, but it was a waddle run into this clubhouse pro shop in, oh gosh, where was it? We're on the way to Reno, and we're on this drive, and it's like, dude, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna give you the tour player's name, but he has won in the last couple of years, so. I'm telling you, dude, I will. And this is good. This is just. I'll leave you here with this. If you're gonna ever eat In-N-Out Burger, eat it when you get there. Don't eat it before you start your journey. And I've seen it happen twice. I've seen two people go down with In-N-Out Burger.
The ingredients are fresh. You're not meant to get your stomach upset from In-N-Out. That's not how it's supposed to go,
dude. I mean, those In-N-Out Burger might as well just be firecrackers in your stomach, man.
Didn't make it. Didn't make it sound so ominous.
It's hot lava.
I have about 1,000 follow-up questions that are going to happen as soon as we finish recording. I will attempt to leave it there unless we want to come back with more In-N-Out stories. What are we talking? Jordan Spieth, of course. So you said you're Jordan, Tiger, Cantlay, anyone else in the flu realm?
Jordan had the flu. He wouldn't have been able to play Saturday.
Does he know where he got it? Does he
I don't know.
Someone run through LA?
I know it started coming on the end of the day on Friday because he had to go and try to blow a lot of the stuff out of his like nose or throat or whatever. And actually this is what I found out, and this wasn't through Jordan, that a new like scorer person was in there. So like typically it's like normally Scribs or another guy like Montana is normally in there. So it was like somebody new. And that got, I'll say this, like if it would have been something like Scribs in there, this would have never happened, I don't think, because there's a protocol on how scorecard signing goes. And yes, you're not supposed to leave the room, but also we have our score, we check it, and we check it up against the computers. And Jordan had thought it had already been checked against the computer. So when Jordan says, am I good? Like, so he already thought like it's been checked, like back with his scores. So in that moment, he's like, all right, it's been cross-checked with the computer score. So it adds up with the scorecard. So, you know, like we have our score and we have them read it out. And so he'll say go 3-3-3, and I'm like, oh, perfect. Actually, me, it was more like 5-5-5. But anyways, you get to the end, you're like, all right, that checked, boom, go. And so Jordan like did all that, but like he had cross-checked it with the scorecard, and he had gotten the okay, he thought. Then he leaves, comes back, and they're like, yeah, in the locker room later, yeah, you DQ'd. So well, that's all that to say is I'm not trying to rat out whoever the new scorer was, because they're just doing their job, but there is an element of kind of protecting the player in this, because they're there to make sure that nobody gets disqualified. Like that's kind of like the biggest like thing that they can offer is like, hey, I'm here to make sure that all the scores are exactly right and that nobody gets disqualified here, because hey, Jordan was having a good week, you know, like he was having a good week. He was probably going to finish top 10. I don't think he would have played Saturday. I really don't. He had a crazy high fever temperature that it would have been a miracle if he would have made it through the round on Saturday. So, all that to say, like, I guess it makes you feel a little better, right? The fact that you're so sick that you couldn't even really play. But yeah, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus with the scoring thing. And I'm sure that the players and the scorers will kind of, you know, at least the veterans kind of know how to get through it. But whoever the new person is, it definitely, there's an element of making sure that the players are kind of protected in this, because they're not trying to cheat. They just want to make sure they get their scores right and get out of there.
Xander said something to the effect of that the flu kind of tied in where Jordan had to leave quickly because he needed to go use the facilities, man. Yeah,
it was like for his throat and nose. It was like to get like he just needed to blow his nose, is what he told me. So
and so that's interesting that I mean all that sort of insight, you know, informs a lot of, because I don't think people understand that whole behind the scenes, you know, of how that works. I think it's like, I mean, the way it reads is like, I mean, to some, maybe not to all, but it's like, oh, was Jordan Spieth trying to kind of cheat the system? It's like, no, dude, there are computers that track every one of the scores. There's just that's not what was happening.
It makes sense too that he was having beginning flu symptoms. So yeah, you know, for anybody that's ever been sick, once you start that process of foggy, like you're foggy, like you're just like, all right, good. Like I just got to get out of here. I got to start like getting ready for tomorrow. And I know it's his job to get the score right. And he'll say that it's not that person's fault. And it's not like, it's not the scorer's fault. Like Jordan could have sat in there and gotten it right. And I think I think it was more of a communication issue.
Now, so just in general, because this is a debate that's been raging all weekend on social media, how do you feel about the process as it currently stands of physically having to sign a scorecard and check a scorecard when we live in an era of shot link and every single shot being tracked and computerized? Like, do you leave this weekend feeling any sort of way about things need to change?
No, I'm a big fan. I think keeping the scorecard is part of the game. And listen, the PGA Tour up until this point, there's nothing like this never really happens, you know. It's once in a blue moon, and that's why the guys that are with the PGA Tour that are behind the desk that help the guys with their scores, they really are there to help make sure that this doesn't happen. And I'm probably the only thing I'm probably against the disqualification. I would probably be more in for a 2-shot penalty. Especially if it was a non-cheating thing, it was just a mistake. Now, if somebody were to change their score on purpose for a lower score, like we saw on the Canadian, I think it was a Canadian Tour this year.
I think you're right.
Now that's disqualification, suspended, the whole deal. And that's what we're trying to protect against is guys signing for lower scores and cheating doing so. And I don't know how you in this day and age you're going to do that and get away with it. So why are we disqualifying guys? 2-shot penalty seems plenty enough for not signing for the right score, especially when you have a situation like this one, which was, listen, Jordan double bogeyed the last hole, so he's like, crap, like that sucks. You're already like trying to get ready for tomorrow. Then you already have the flu type stuff that's coming along. So yeah, I don't know. That to me seems a little bit more fair in the fact that like just kind of wrong place, wrong time, like just all the wrong things had to happen for him to sign for the wrong score.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, even in the example you listed where, whatever that, I think it might have even been a mini tour, Canadian mini tour event where there are definitely still tours that exist where you could get away with scorecard fudging because they don't have all the technology and tracking and could cheat your way into, winning the event and winning money or whatever it is. So I get why that exists. I think I can see to a certain degree the argument of like, dude, there's no way you can cheat in today's day and age in the PGA Tour because all the scores are electronically entered. But I do think your point is a good one. And I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you think this is a valid point or not, but you hear good players talking about playing high level tournaments and they say, look, that pencil gets real heavy when you're playing in a tour event and the physical act of pulling out the scorecard and keeping your scores.
Yeah,
and
a lot of caddies,
that top
of caddies keep them.
Do they really?
Yeah, a lot of
so a player won't even.
They'll just hand the scorecard to the caddy and they'll keep it, so they don't have to worry about it. I liked keeping it. A lot of times, like in the little, because you got your score at the top, it's real small. But I would keep I used to keep my stats there because I was the guy that always manually kept my stats. Even, I guess probably on tour, I would be able to like check them a lot easier, so I wouldn't do it on tour. But Corn Ferry mini tours, I would always keep my stats there just to kind of give me a better feel of my golf game. Yeah,
well, interesting. I think that just about puts a bow on the week, except for this is a golf course that you hear so many guys every week talking about how this is their favorite place to play on tour, maybe outside of certain major venues. Again, a really fun watch this week, a lot of unique holes, no real like hazards on the course, but different barrancas and features that are just really unique to this property. Just your thoughts on Riv and what makes it such a unique course and unique test for these guys, why they love it so much.
It's just a brilliant design, man. And I think like the first hole gets debated a lot, just being like, is it a par 5? Because in this day and age, it's really just a good par 4, good long par 4. And I actually don't mind it being a par 5 because the rest of the golf course is so challenging, and this, I started thinking about this because the fourth hole just absolutely makes me so angry in the way how it plays now because of the Kikuya grass that plays sticky and soft. I could see why there's a plaque behind the 4T where Ben Hogan talks about how it's, the greatest par 3 in the world. And listen, I think it's an amazing Redan hole. If it played like you can bounce it up short and right and have this front to back slope, take it to where the hole location is. But in today's game, it's so soft, short and right that it doesn't get the bounce. And if you do get a bounce, it's a lucky bounce. And I watch too many really good shots, and it's every year. Like you land on the green, it just rolls over the green. And I just think that they should probably move the tees up to like that 175 yard range, since you can't do anything with the bounce from back there. That it's just, to me, not my favorite hole on the tour. Like I just think it's like it's an amazing design with just not the correct turf conditions for how it should play. But as we go through the rest of the course, I think 10's overrated. It's not my favorite hole. I do think it's just like a goofy, weird drivable par 4 that does, like, everybody goes for it. I wish that there would be more of an element to see guys lay up and kind of play a little bit more strategy, but there's no strategy now. Like, everybody just pushes it up green side to the left, unless you're Luke Liss and hit in the worst place in the world on that short right bunker, but incredible shot he hit. And I don't know. I just think like JT's like literally the only guy that lays up because he can cut a wedge shot from 80 yards better than anybody. But as we kind of talk about the rest of the course, I just think the combinations of shots you have to hit out there, just like shaping it one direction and then shaping it the other way. And just like that 16th hole, the par 3 with those dead whatever trees they are. Just I mean, it's just such a cool track, man.
It's unique. Yeah.
Like I wish there'd be more golf courses like that on the PGA Tour that they got to play every week. TBC Craig Ranch doesn't quite hold a candle to
I was going to say, never will we discuss golf course architecture in which we don't mention the glorious track that is TPC Craig Ranch.
How can you not?
How can you not? I mean, look, I think it's. I love the weirdness and the wonkiness, even of holes like the 10th hole.
You like 10?
I like 10 because it's just weird. I just think that there are, and I like weird. I just think that we see so many of the same types of. Maybe not the same types of tests, but it's just like we've gotten to a point in time in professional golf where if you don't have advisors on game strategy and how you're going to attack certain courses, you're losing. You're doing it wrong. You're falling behind other people who are employing people to strategize every potential efficiency or inefficiency in your games to give you the best chance at winning. And I think that some of what we see in some of the way these holes are played is like a bunch of strategy robots playing a place that has, character and history. And it's weird trying to kind of mesh the two of them. And it's almost like, I kind of like seeing guys' brains break a little bit when they hit in a spot where they're like,
it is goofy
what am I
golf,
supposed
right?
what am I supposed to do from here? It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like maybe like don't look at a stat sheet and like actually think about how you want to play this hole. And I'm not saying guys don't do that. That's, but I just think that I like it when puzzles are presented to tour pros that are unique, and
that's a good way of putting it. It's a good puzzle.
And I think 4 is the same way because I know exactly what you're saying. It's like this is so, in one sense, this is so stupid. How are we not rewarding these good golf shots to hold the screen? It's like, well, man, like you might have to think about a different way of playing this hole, and it might not look like the stats that are in front of you. It might just be that this hole is an aberration. It's a unique puzzle that doesn't fit within all the strokes gained data, and so. I understand people who look at it and they're like, I don't like this, but I enjoy the uniqueness of the course and the test.
I think you just compared the 10th hole at Riviera to Monopoly, the board game.
I might have. I just might have. I mean, one of my favorite courses in the whole world is Tobacco Road, Sanford, North Carolina. Because it's like playing golf on Mars, and it's weird. It doesn't make any sense. It's all these different, camouflaging of holes where it's actually a pretty simple target golf course once you kind of figure it out. First time I played that course, I hated it. I never wanted to see it again. I wanted to walk off the lot and leave. But then I left and I just became obsessed with it. Of just like, wait, well, what if I hit it over there on this hole? And that would have left me a really easy shot here. And that to me in some ways is like, I've never played Riv, so I don't know. But I just from what I see on TV, it's like, man, like there are all these, like you could sit there and think about 10 and try to play it like seven different types of ways. And none of those might actually be the perfect solution. It might change on a day-to-day basis. That I think is like super cool and unique. And
there's only one way to play it though. Like there is only literally one way to play it unless you're JT. Everybody plays it the exact same way, which is why I think there's better drivable par 4s out there that give you a little bit more of a risk reward option. There's only one option now that it's just push it up to the left and hopefully you don't get behind a tree. I just think that's kind of wonky.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I just think that is it that there's only one way to play it because there is only one way to play it, or is it because every guy's looking? Is because every guy's looking at the same stat sheet and saying that's the way I'm supposed to play it.
Well, and if I don't do it, the green's too narrow, it's too firm, and wedge shot really. If, most guys, I guess. I mean, it's hard to say, but I would say more guys draw their wedge shots than fade their wedge shots. I think that's a pretty normal pattern for at least 80-yard wedge shots, and you can't hit a draw wedge shot into that green. You're not holding the green. So you have to hit a pretty big cut to hold the green. So yeah, like I would argue, yeah, if it's firm, there really is only one way to play it.
I mean, and maybe fair, but then it's like you have a guy like JT who has taken time in his life and career to like cultivate an artistry that suits this course, and guess what? He gets to play different from everyone else because he has that skill. I don't know. I get it. I get that there's like, that there are two sides of it. I like weird things. I like weird puzzles.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I don't know. I guess I like Monopoly. I didn't really thought about it too much. So that's kind of it for this tournament. I know we are late in the show now, but we are hoping to debut a new segment this week. We are debuting a new segment this week. I think you and I have both noticed how much the viewers and listeners seem to really appreciate the content we put out related to instruction, game improvement, strategy. You've had a lot of cool conversations with, swing instructors, short game coaches, where a lot of that insights kind of resonate with people on social media. And then even your own experiences. Last week, you were sharing that system that Tiger used for points to inform strategy. That stuff seems to do well with our audience. So knowing that, we want to try something out that's like a show and tell of sorts, where you and I both took some time this last week to go work on some stuff on our own game, and maybe taking 5 minutes-ish each to talk about what that stuff is. And the hope being that, look, a lot of things you're working on, maybe elite players can take a page out of your book and learn something and add that to their toolkit. And I'm sure there are a lot of average Joe amateurs out there who hear some stuff that 5 handicap Charlie's working on and maybe can take that and say, oh yeah, I make that same mistake and add it to their toolkit. So let's just get this thing started. We don't have visuals for you this week. I did bring visuals to show and tell, but you this week had a couple of revelations, right? We had one miss that we'll see on YouTube shortly that you are correcting through, is it adjustment of lie angles and perhaps a new shaft in your driver? Do I have that correct?
Yeah. You said 5 minutes. I'll keep it to 45 seconds. It's actually pretty simple. The fitter, Pete Weber over in Cartersville, Georgia. And listen, within the first 2 balls, he was able to tell with my 6 iron that, okay, you're delivering the club face just from a lie angle perspective of kind of how you're delivering the club into the ground was 4 degrees too flat, which is just an insane number. So it's basically, I think I was like 1.5 degrees like flat or something like that. Now it's like adjusted to 2.5 degrees upright. And
wow,
listen, we went out and hit into the turf and it was immediate. I was like, oh my gosh, I finally a ball that starts online and not right. So I just have had this right miss. It's just been plaguing me. And I feel like I've been swinging it better too. So that's been frustrating, just kind of the manipulations I've been having to do. And same with the driver, just I just really figured out with the driver that I needed a lower torque shaft option. The one I had, it was a Ventus 7X blue. And that's more of a mid torque is how it was described to me, which if anything, gives you a little bit more lag, I think, and potentially it opens up the club face a little bit more, which is what I was kind of struggling with. I've been trying to get the club to return the angle of just being able to get the club head to deliver and not get stuck behind, because I've been making good swings, but the club head is just like, it's just playing catch up. So those are the two things. Just immediately I went and had a range session and was able to work it both ways, kind of work on my golf swing and basically see the golf ball. If I'm trying to hit a fade, it fades. If I'm trying to draw, it draws. So it's just nice to see that you get out there and just the fixing the arrows helped, because for the longest time you think it's you and your golf swing, but really for me it was just getting my clubs in order.
Yeah, it's a great reminder to go get those lie angles checked every year. When you take the clubs in for the new season to get them regripped and check those lie angles, check those lofts, all that good stuff. Maybe we'll have some swing video of new and improved SK to share on the show soon. We can take a look at all this stuff live and
I mean, the swing is good. I'm swinging it good. And that was a frustrating thing about California is this is what happens in golf when your clubs are not fit for you, right? You start first off, your rhythm gets bad. You don't turn as good on the way back. For at least me, I would stop my hip turn. I definitely would want to be closer to the ground. Like I didn't want to stay tall. Like there was nothing about my golf swing that was benefited from not getting the club in the ground correctly. So just a lot of manipulation with my hands, because when you're hitting it right all the time and you know your club face is open, you know, at the ball, like what's the first thing you want to do the next swing? You're like, I have got to speed my arms up to get this club face to go. And for any good golfer that knows the correct sequence of a golf swing, you don't want to like have to like throw your arms at it. Like that's a steep move. It's a path that's going to be more promoting to a slice. So I was kind of battling it both. It's like I got a shaft that's pushing it right. I have lie angles of my irons that are pushing it right. And now I have a golf swing that I'm like, I got to quicken on my arms and hands to get the club face to catch up, which gets my path to out to in. So there we go. You got everything that's producing a right shot and then a right to right shot, which is some people call it hi-ya.
Hi-ya. We might see a return to the hi-yas.
That was 5 minutes. That was 5 minutes. I was actually surprised.
That was a solid 5. No, I love that. I mean, look, you know, your swing looks great, wonderful. So much so that in watching my swing side by side next to your swing for the past week and a half, I've decided that I hate my swing. And so here's a little journey I went on this last week as I was looking at all this stuff, and there are a few things that I found that I really don't like. I was swaying. Instead of turning, you know, to start the swing, I was kind of swaying back. My hands are getting really, really high. And this is something I've struggled with for a while. I
told you that, though.
You did tell me this, but this week we figured out the fix. So I deliver the club really steep, and I would kind of deliver it outside to in. So I'd have a negative path, and then to compensate for that, I'd have this really open club face. And so I'd really just get one of two shots. I'd either get this sort of weak bleeder cut where if I could just sync up the face to path, you know, it would go straight, but, you know, maybe kind of be 5 or 7 yards shorter than what my intended, you know, yardage was going to be. Or I'd square the club face up, and because I had a negative path, you know, going to the left, I'm hitting that thing 5 or 7 yards further than what I was intending to do, and maybe 10 to 15 yards left to target. So I went to, and I'll share the old as we're chatting about this. I went to John Marino over Old Chatham here in Durham, North Carolina, who, by the way, awesome follow on Instagram. If you're like in the market for instructional tips or good videos, trying to figure out your swing, he's at John H. Marino on Instagram. So we were looking at some of this stuff like immediately on TrackMan, and identified that pass stuff, that face stuff, but really like it's if you look at the top of the swing here, you can see how high my hands are right here, and also that shaft, like the shoulder angle and the shaft angle are not parallel. And look, I'm no expert here, but you know, and explains like, yeah, you're on two different planes. You need to get on that same plane to kind of have a repeatable strike. So what we did is we and I'll pull up swing 2 here. We got that classic, like put that alignment stick in the ground with a pool noodle on top of it, kind of in line with the path, worked on kind of getting the hands lower, worked on the turn a little bit more instead of the sway. And I'm quite happy with where we are with in just one lesson here. Just the hands are a lot lower. I mean, I think it looks a lot better. And in taking this out for a little test drive on Friday, I'm hitting the balls like 10 to 15 yards further. So I'd just say if you're out there and you're swinging out to in, and your hands are getting high and you're feeling like you're not turning your swing a little bit, you know, maybe something to take a look at. Here's a little side by side. Here's old.
See, I'll show you. I'll tell you what you're doing better there. So your left arm's lowered. As you can see, the one on the right. I actually like it because it's a little bit more like down the line, like not as quite as laid off as the one to the left. But your left arm's a little lower. You're definitely in flexion, but you have more hand depth. You could see like if you drew a line down from the grip all the way down through your right shoe, like you're like in the you're in the balls of your feet on the left one, and then the one on the right, you're more like towards your heel, which promotes just already being hitting it from the inside of the golf ball, which is what you want to do in the golf swing. So I like that. I'll say that posture wise, you were a big fan of like the posture thing that you did, and I don't mind it. It just looks like you're a little bit too on your heels. I prefer to start a little bit more on the balls of your feet. So that would be one thing, because when I watched your takeaway in your new golf swing, I think you get it too inside on the way back, and I think it's because you're too much in your heels set up. I think if you got a little bit more in the balls of your feet, chest up a little bit, the club would maybe be a little bit more or a little less inside on the way back, and then from there still feel left. You can still turn into your right hip and then try to get a little bit of a lower left arm to continue to get that hand depth that you desperately need in your golf swing. So that would be the only advice I'd give you, is just maybe just change the posture a little bit, shift that weight a little bit more in the balls of your feet to get that club from getting sucked too inside on the way back.
That's interesting, because we did talk posture, and the sort of the place we arrived on that was, this is, kind of looks slumped here. So this is old. So this is kind of like slumped, and I'm kind of crowding the ball a little bit compared to new, where the goal, I guess, was to kind of move a little bit further away from the ball, hinge, get more hip depth and hinge, but you're still seeing heels there.
Yeah,
so there
we go. To me, like, I think you need, like, I like stepping a little bit away from it like you did, but let's like bounce back and forth, and like, you can move your weight from heel to toe, and then try to settle in on the balls of your feet, because that's like the most athletic you can be. Like, you don't want to start on your heels, because the first thing that's going to happen is your club's going to get sucked in inside, because if you try to go outside with it, guess what's going to happen? Like, you're going to start losing balance. And then from there, that's when you just start getting really twisty in a golf swing. So I would just try to maybe like still take that inch away from the golf ball, which I think is a good idea, but also just get a little bit more athletic in your setup.
Yeah, that's good. Because I'm trying.
Keep going back a little bit, like a couple more frames.
Yeah.
That's like, see, that to me is just a little bit sucked inside. Like, which, listen, Victor Hovland, like, he came on here, he's a guy that's an inside golfer. And if you like that feel, then, and it works, and you have a golf shot that, like, if you are a person that's going to be a pull hitter, somebody that hits pull fades, you can be an inside guy. Like, that's fine. But I wouldn't be trying to hit too many draws from there.
Yeah.
Like push draws.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I think 20 minutes into lesson 1. So I'm sure I'll have more to report in the near future, but,
no, it's a good start. I think it's huge. Like, I think one of the big things you need to keep working on is keeping that left arm, lower at the top. So like, if you felt like somebody, like if I held a stick on face on side of you and just put it on your right shoulder, and I just wanted you to try to swing your left shoulder and arm underneath that. And maybe just whether it's putting something, a stick there, just to be able to kind of practice feeling what it's like kind of swinging in an elevator. Like, cause you need to feel like you're staying centered and turning and still getting that hand depth, because your thing is like, you lift your arms and your hands. Right. And then from there, like even for you, like you keep, it's just hard, because eventually you're going to have to early extend and throw the club at it.
Well, and if I went back and re-racked the video again, I mean, that's exactly, the early extension's been my worst enemy, because it's like, I'm stuck at that point. I'm playing a timing game. If I'm swaying and lifting my hands instead of turning and getting my hands lower, well, only place I can go from here is like, maybe I can time it up. And that's the other thing too, is I was hitting a ton of balls thin in this sort of main voyage, because I think I was so scared to death of taking a divot, because the margin for error is
you've had to stall. You've had to stall out. And for you, like, you're not used to being able to go through the golf ball. Which I'll say this, maybe we should have every week somebody you pick a swing video, and I'll break it down.
Ooh, are you saying me or just our viewers and listeners?
Like people if anybody that's listening wants to send in a swing video,
I like that.
Why don't you pick one? We can just throw it in.
This is the next evolution of the segment. All right, so be on the lookout for that. Follow us on our social media at The Smylie Show, and look out for a call to action soon where you get to sing your swing video in, And Smylie gets to break it down and give you some tips and thoughts. There we go. Look at us live producing this. Well, we
live produce every week now. Let's live produce our next bit.
Yeah, I mean, we just did a segment on getting the runs from In-N-Out, so I think anything's fair game at this point. We have another new segment next, which is that we are jumping on the one and done bandwagon. We are going to make one and done picks every week. And this week we have the Mexico Open at Vedanta. I have a field list in front of me right now. Smylie, would you like to do the honors with the first official?
No, you
Smylie show. I go first. Okay,
you take the next one. And how is it? Just based off signature or FedEx Cup points? Is that the easiest way to do it? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll just do FedEx Cup points.
FedEx Cup points. You can do money.
Let's do. Yeah, points is way easier.
Points is way easier. All right, FedEx
easier
Cup
to
points.
find at least.
Also, like very, very tour loyal too. I love that too.
I just love that. Like, there's so many people that
guys.
I know that are doing these one and dones, and I'm like, why am I not doing one of these? So we're starting now. We're just a little late to the party.
We're a little late to the party. Maybe if we add more episodes down the road later in the week once DFS lineups are in play, maybe we get a little one of those. But all right, well, let's see here. I mean, do I want to burn a big name early? And this is going to be.
Do we have enough big names at Mexico Open?
Well, yeah. I mean, we have. Oh, I know who I'm going to take.
Willie Z withdrew. Just so you know.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Thank you for that, because that was one of the things I was looking at. But I wasn't going to pick him.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I know exactly what I'm going to pick. And I'm going to take him so you can't take him.
Okay.
Is that how this is working? Or I guess you take the same guy?
Yeah, you take him.
I'm going to take friend of the pod, Jake Knapp.
Wow, I love that pick. Thank you. I was actually highly considering taking Jake, but now that you, I feel like you leave me no choice. I have to take Tony Finau. Just like, yeah.
I think that's a fair defending here.
Give me Tony Finau.
I think that's easy.
I couldn't believe you didn't take him.
Well, I mean,
but I love you taking Jake though.
I'm riding on the Jake.
Jake's gonna be
bandwagon.
so pumped that he was the number one draft pick of our
first
one and done. He can't let you down.
He's not going to let me down. He played. I feel like he played pretty good in Phoenix. I actually don't know where he finished, but he had a couple good rounds in a row. Yeah. Played great at Torrey Pines. This course sets up perfectly for him, as you discussed with him on the podcast. Mm-hmm. I'm riding with Jake. I'm thinking tour win numero uno this week.
Okay. Other guys I like, just if you're in the one and done stuff, I like Keith Mitchell this week. I think he's going to have a great week.
What about a guy like Patrick Rogers?
I like Patrick this week. Definitely. Let's see. It's a golf course that you need somebody that hits it hard, and a really good iron player. I think Mark Hubbard would be a good pick. He's not the longest player, but he's a very good iron player. Akshay Bhatia, if he's playing, I don't know if he's on this list. I assume he's playing. If he is, I really like Akshay. Andrew Novak. Andrew Novak. That is if you're not taking him for one and done or whatever, the DFS thing is a great pick. Andrew Novak had a great week in Phoenix. This is a really good golf course for him. Matt McNeely. Yeah, he had a good week in Phoenix. I just kind of like guys that are trending, playing well. Jonathan Vegas had a good week there too. He wouldn't be surprising for a guy that would be a very good course fit.
Let me throw another friend of the pod at you.
Yeah, please.
How do you like Eric Van Rooyen as a course fit?
Yeah, actually, I really like Eric this week. Yeah, I definitely do. And then last one I'll go with is Davis Thompson. He's another good pick for this week. I think that's a good horse for course.
Love it. Look at us. Yeah. I feel like live producing. We're making it happen. There you go. We're throwing some new segments out there. We've taken up more than enough of your time, but let me end with this. We just teased our socials because we, of course, want you to now submit your swing videos so Smylie can analyze those and give you some feedback live on the show. But you're going to want to go and follow those, because if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a special giveaway coming up soon. You see this little Smylie show. I believe this is I think this is a wood cover. I don't think it's a hybrid cover. This is a wood cover. This is courtesy of Jan Craig Head Covers. Our good friend Janet Craig was kind enough to make these for us. Got the nice little tassel on the top here. in traditional Smylie show colors. And what we're going to do for this head cover giveaway is, if you send us, we'll send out a call to action. So we'll give you specific instructions, but basically the gist of this head cover giveaway is going to be as follows. We need to see a screenshot that you are subscribed to our YouTube page. So it's youtube.com/@thesmylieshow. You can also just search The Smylie Show on YouTube. If you send us a screenshot, any of our socials that you're following The Smylie Show, or that you subscribe to The Smylie Show on YouTube, they consider that an entry for a giveaway of this head cover. So stay tuned for that soon. Go follow us on those places. Most importantly, go subscribe to our YouTube page. We're going to drop some really fun stuff there soon, and you could be the lucky recipient of our first ever show giveaway.
Yeah, it came out great. I got a couple as well. Thank you to
Jan.
Yeah, thanks, Jan.
Jan Craig head covers.
I've got a couple of their head covers they would do throughout the year. I got a Bay Hill one, Arnold Palmer week. Yeah, those are always fun. I love the pom-pom tops.
Yeah, this classic look. I think we both have our sets, so we can take out on the course next time we do a little on-course video. But yeah, big thanks to Jan Craig, head covers, and big thanks to you for going and subscribing to our YouTube page so that you can potentially win this thing. So that's all we got for this week, and we'll be back here midweek with the guests in the feed, or so we hope. And then if not, then we'll see you for a recap of the Mexico Open at Vedanta. As always, we appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon. And also, stay away from the flu, and if you're going to eat In-N-Out, make sure you're near a restroom.
I've actually watched a couple of episodes of y'all earlier, and you guys have some good takes. So thanks for what you guys do. It's cool to see what you guys are doing, and I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too. So please keep it up.
I think you're doing a tremendous job, and I listen to this podcast. It's really cool, and